Good evening, everybody. Matt Geary here for the Geek Cast on this Monday evening. With me tonight, as always, we have my co-host, Peter Allison.
Good evening, everyone.
And our special guest, owner of Crafty Cove, Tony Walton.
How'd you do?
So, Tony, who are you? What do you do? What's your thing? Tell us about yourself.
Oh, right. Where to begin? Right. My name's Tony. I'm co-director of a venue, shop, cafe lounge, photo studio, printing studio in the middle of Whitby, North Yorkshire. We don't really have an identity. We do a bit of everything. We cater to the alternative community, and we have a policy of inclusivity for literally everyone. We don't tolerate intolerance, basically. And it's a safe space atmosphere, whether it's during the day when the shop and coffee lounge are open, or once or twice a month we have a pop-up nightclub where, again, safe space atmosphere, regardless of who, whatever you are guaranteed to have a safe and enjoyable evening in our venue.
Nice. I mean, we've met actually. During the summer holidays, me and my family went to Whitby for the week, and we found Crafty Cove on the last day. And we'd been in a few golf shops and alternative shops in Whitby, but yours was the one that felt the most welcoming.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's not something we actively try to do. It's just who we are, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, like, you were the one that kind of just chatted to us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not just a shop. It's a social experience.
Yeah, very much. And like, also, unlike a lot of other crafts and alternative shops, you are not just a alternative shop. You've got all this kind of diversification, which I've never really seen before.
We do, and it's our restless imaginations. We basically wake up in the middle of the night with another idea, and then the following day it's in the shop.
So what was give us the history behind it. How did it all start? What was the idea behind it? How did you start it?
Well, basically, Whitby has always been our second home. That's myself and my wife, Jan. And we were married here coming up 14 years ago. And we spent every single spare moment of our time in Whitby. We lived about an hour and a half away. And we always said we would retire here. And then about 3 years ago, we just thought, what are we waiting for? Let's just do it. So we did. We moved to Whitby, and John opened a little shop up on Silver Street, which was the original Crafty Cove, basically to sell goth clothing and her hand knitted toys and whatever. She custom knits toys. You've got to see them to believe them, really. She takes requests. She knits rock stars. She knits film stars. She knits horror icons.
Has she knitted a facehugger from Aliens?
She's done about 6 facehuggers now.
I remember seeing one there.
Yeah, we've got zombies, we've got vampires, we've got Frankenstein's monsters in there. And the shop started getting really, really popular. I was still a maintenance engineer in a factory on Teesside at the time. And about a year and a half in, I had to give up the day job. I just didn't have time. We'd started printing T-shirts, canvases, mugs, jackets. And I was getting in from work at about 6 o'clock, printing things till about midnight, 1 o'clock, and then back up again at 5 o'clock to go to work. And it just started getting too much. So quit the day job, joined Jan in her venture, which was snowballing by this point. Goth weekends. We were really losing custom because the shop wasn't big enough to accommodate the number of people who wanted to come in. So they were basically just walking past because of the crowd. And then in the summer of last year, I heard that the local nightclub was going to be closing down. And the owner of said nightclub basically said, do you want it? So we took his hand off, basically. We took over the nightclub in January, spent a month getting it the way we wanted it, the way we needed it to look, the way we needed it to operate, and we opened on the 1st of February this year as the Crafty Cove, as she is now, basically. And it's not just a shop anymore. It's its own entity, and it's evolving every single day. It's becoming a bit of a centre for the alternative community, and people genuinely look forward to our monthly, bi-monthly pop-up nightclub nights. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, because I mean, to call it just a shop does it a massive disservice, given how you do so much else.
Oh yeah.
I mean, also one point, I mean, you started this 3 years ago, which is the height of COVID.
Yep.
That doesn't seem the best time to open up a retail establishment.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did that work for you?
Yeah. It did seem initially at the time that it was probably, excuse the phrase, absolutely barking mad thing to do.
Yeah.
But it kind of worked because, I mean, we both pretty much worked for other people all of our lives, apart from the odd occasion when we ran a pub. But starting the business when we did, it eased us into it rather than having to hit the ground running and make sure we had a fully stocked shop. We had plenty of time to sort of establish our identity, to stock the shop exactly the way Jan wanted it stock in. Because ultimately the shop is Jan's baby. I'm basically the little troll that lurks in the workshop out the back. And every now and then I'll stick my head out when people want a T-shirt printing or something like that. But yeah, it was oddly advantageous starting it when we did.
Okay. One thing as well is, I mean, did you approach banks or anything for like startups or anything? I mean, what was the initial reaction when you said, right, we're going to open a shop during COVID? What was their reaction to that?
Weirdly enough, we didn't need to approach a bank. And for Whitby, we were incredibly fortunate that the rent on the initial shop was pretty damn cheap. As far as stock was concerned, I have incredibly helpful and incredibly generous parents who have pretty much given us their last to get the business established. But yeah, I think because Jan was so determined and she had the idea so fixed in her head of what she wanted the shop to be and what she wanted it to achieve, just by talking about it, she convinced people. It was, I think it's Jan's sheer determination and pig-headedness, basically. But yeah, and it just took off and then snowballed, and it wasn't very long before we realised that little shop that had been such a great springboard for us just wasn't big enough for us anymore. So we struggled on for about another year until Raw Nightclub closed and we were offered the opportunity.
Yeah, did you always kind of intend to diversify out from being like going to entertainment space, recording studio, and so on?
Oh, good Lord, no. That kind of saying it fell into our lap probably isn't right. Maybe smacked us about the head is probably more accurate. What it was, the guy who had the nightclub, Mr. Richard Natras, he is landlord of the Little Angel in Whitby. He also ran Raw Nightclub, and he still owns the lease on the building, and we rent it from him. And because Richard was so impressed with how Jan sort of ran Crafty Cove and how she saw the future of Crafty Cove, he has basically bent over backwards to help us. And he has given us pretty much all of the resources to make everything in there a reality. He's helped us stock the bar for our nightclub nights, and yeah, he's been an incredible help. It's as if the Crafty Cove's come to a point now where people actually want to come and actually want to help. We have a leather worker, a Mr. J. Charles, who has helped us from day one when we first moved down to there. And the amount of time and work that he's put in just to help us for no reward other than he wants to be involved with the Cove. And that's kind of a thing that's happening now. People do things because they want to be part of it. Like I say, it's not a shop anymore. It's not a nightclub. It's become a thing, basically. I don't know how to describe it, but
it's got its own culture.
It has. I mean, we do go to other alternative nights in Whitby, and when we do, everyone ends up talking about our place.
I suppose Whitby's a good place for a goth sort of establishment, being, you know, with the whole Dracula links.
Absolutely, and we do get a lot of goth and alternative visitors throughout the year, but we also have quite an established community in town as it is, and we're all very sort of closely knit. We have people running events at other venues, such as my friend Jay. He runs events up at the Metropole. We have obviously the Little Angel. They have events on, and rather than sort of competing against each other, we cross promote, because where we're geared up for a club night, the Little Angel is a pub, and the Metropole is geared up for full-on staged bands. So rather than trying to nab customers from each other, we're kind of giving the customers the choice, basically.
Sounds very familiar. Like when growing up in, and I think probably every sort of, you get a lot of this in a lot of towns. Growing up in Belfast or outside of Belfast, we had sort of alternative. We had a thing called Arcadia, which was like a little. It was like it was like an arcade, but it had lots of alternative shops. And there was another one called Fresh Garbage. You had a little cafe. You had all these little alternative shops, all in the same area, and they all sort of helped each other because all the alternative people were in that area, and there was no use in sort of like trying to sort of, I don't know, screw each other over for business and stuff. So they sort of kind of worked together, and for me, it was a great place to, growing up, it was a great place to be.
That's exactly how we work. It's not just sort of for the event nights either. I mean, we're obviously not the only goth shop in Whitby. There are several others, but we're generally friends with everybody. We go out for drinks with Elaine and John, who own Pandemonium, another well-known goth shop in town. And it's basically an unwritten rule. If one shop stocks a certain brand, we don't. We'll stock something different. And if somebody comes into our shop looking for something and we haven't got it, we'll send them to Pandemonium, or we'll send them to the Great Goth, or we'll send them to Venus Trading or Squid Rock, and they do the same for us. So it's we're more of a community rather than competitors.
How would you say Crafty Cove is different to the Great Goth and Pantomonia?
They're just shops.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
But when you come into Crafty Cove and it is just a shop, I don't know. It's not just, you come in, you look around the goods. If you see something you like, you buy it. You know yourself when you came in, you come in to have a look at the gear and you end up talking to us for 45
That's very
minutes
true.
to an hour. And I mean, my wife welcomes everybody in. They all get the personal attention. And if we have any youngsters who come in that are new to the scene and they're not sure, Jan will take them through all the clothes, and she'll talk them through everything and how to wear it and how to, say, lace up a corset or something like that. And it's very sort of personal and hands-on. Jan just, I don't know, she just feels the need to help everybody. And you can't just come in and buy a jumper and walk out. it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the best way to be. Like there's genuine sort of interest in a person, and then there's the hard sell, and you can tell the difference. So if I walk into Games Workshop and they start asking me what army I collect, and if I need paint and glue and things like that, you're like, yeah, you're not doing it to be nice. You're doing it because you need your quotas and stuff like that. Some of that you do get some of them here are nice, granted, but you know the difference between somebody if you walk into a shop and you just naturally start talking to them and they're just having a banter, they're not pressuring you and stuff like that. And I find that personally, when I'm in places and nobody pressures me, but I'm talking to somebody and they're being nice, I'm more likely to buy something because I feel like, I don't know, there's sort of like a bit more of a connection, and I'm like, I might give this, yeah.
I mean, that's not why we do it. I mean, we're just naturally social people, basically. And, I mean, like I was saying, the safe space atmosphere we insist on when we have our nights. We make sure we've got security on the door, and the security kind of know who to let in and who not to let in. And the security that we have, they never have to come inside because there's never any trouble. But that extends during the day as well, whereby if you've got a busy day in Whitby can be quite overwhelming. The streets are pretty narrow, and when you've got several thousand people there, what we've said basically is if you're out in the street, you're feeling a bit stressed, you're feeling a bit sort of flushed or overwhelmed by it all, come into the Cove, go and sit in one of the dark corners on one of our couches, just get your head together. You don't need to buy anything. You don't even have to buy a coffee. Just come in, sort yourself out, and then just leave in your own time. And it's something that's working really well. We have got regular customers that come in now because of that. We've got a couple of autistic kids who once upon a time would never leave their bedrooms. They were very, very socially awkward. And now they're coming in, they're making friends with other kids like themselves. And we get little social groups coming in on certain days during the week. They'll sit and have a coffee and a natter to each other. And it's great just to see, you can walk out into the shop. You're not making an absolute fortune out of these kids. They've only spent a couple of quid each on a coffee. But it does bring a smile to your face because you know fine well that if it wasn't for that, they'd be sitting in the house playing a video game by themselves or, and yeah, it does. It puts a smile on my face when I walk out and I see that.
What's the difference between basically following your dream or your wife's dream even, and being a what did you say, a maintenance? I was a maintenance engineer in a factory. So what's the difference? Yeah, what's the difference?
Wow. I don't get me wrong. I used to love being a maintenance engineer. I'm a logical person. I do like to think, problem solving, things like that. But now I'm being given more creative license, something I've never had before. Engineering is very logical, whereas what we do now, it's you just think of something, you have an idea, and we've got the equipment in the workshop now to make it happen. We have, good Lord, 5 various size 3D printers in there. We have 2 dedicated t-shirt printers. Then we've got another printer that will make banners and stickers and canvases. I've actually got a normal printer in there, oddly enough. It doesn't do much. I think there are 5 separate PCs in there running various bits of equipment. And then we've got all the workbenches. Like I say, I've got Jay there doing leather work, and he does PVC work, shoemaking. Jay's the same as us. He'll have an idea if he's walking past a charity shop and sees a jacket in there that he thinks, it's okay, but it could be better. He'll go and buy it and then bring it into the shop and cover it with studs and straps and buckles and you name it. Some of the creations Jay's turned out have just been absolutely stunning. And half the time I don't want to sell them. I want to keep them for myself. But there's always something different in our shop as well. I think that's one of the big things. People come in, if they only visit Whitby 2 or 3 times a year, they're guaranteed to see something different. But some of our friends that live in Whitby who come to see us 2 or 3 times a week will see something different. There will be always something different in there. We end up having brainstorming sessions, and we'll just start filling the workshop up with junk we think we can do things with. And some of the things that are going out of the workshop, they're absolutely astounding. They really are.
I think one thing that's quite telling is that Crafty Cove is very creative. It's not just a reseller. It's like buy in bulk and sell it on. It's you can actually create things on site, and I think it's that uniqueness and creativity just come through.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can sit and watch Jan when she's doing the knitting, and it sounds so boring and mundane. She's sitting there knitting, but when you realise that she's just knitted a 12-inch tall figure of Keith Flint, complete with the twin mohawks and his stars and stripes jumper from the Firestarter video, and she does it without a pattern, and half the time she's not even looking at the needles when she's doing it. We've had people come in giving us requests. Can you knit this footballer from this team? And all she'll say to me is, get me a photograph of the football strip and I'll do it. So I'll go on the computer, get her a picture, and then she'll sit there and rattle it off. She's done Corey from Slipknot, complete with his mask. She's just done a little Bob Marley for somebody, complete with dreadlocks. People have come in and just said, can you knit my boyfriend? and Jan sort of gives them a puzzled look, and then they end up sending a picture of their boyfriend to my phone, and I'll print it out for Jan. And like 2 days later, she's got a little figure there that looks for all the world like this girl's boyfriend. It's just really strange. She's actually knitted a guy from a description rather than a picture. This guy came in and he just said, he wears this kind of jacket, he wears these trousers, this sort of haircut. He came back a week later, he just looked at this little figure and went, my God, you've nailed it. I don't know if she does it. I think it's witchcraft.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you also do lots of geeky stuff as well. Because I was going for your T-shirt, your T-shirt rack, and there was some great Star Wars ones, which I'd never seen before. I was very, very, very tempted.
Oh yeah. I'm a massive, massive Star Wars fan, and when I get an idea, it's just bam, got to be on a T-shirt. But it's not just for sci-fi geeks either. We've got nostalgia for people of a certain age. We've got Charlton and the Wheelies, Trumpton, that sort of thing from the 70s. I've got 80s cartoons like Danger Mouse, Duckula.
Wow, some old school.
We've got some proper geeky stuff in there. Because, well, I mean, we're both in our 50s now, but you know what they say, you've got to grow old. You don't have to grow up.
Very true. And I'm sticking to that. I'm hurtling towards 50 with alarming alacrity. And I'm
what a word, alacrity.
Thank you.
The walking thesaurus is Peter Ray Allison.
It's what I do. But it's just sort of like that. When we went to Crafty Cove, like I had my 3 kids with me, and obviously my wife as well, and we felt happy just kind of let the kids roam around and have a look.
Yep.
And there was some shops where I wouldn't have been as comfortable with them doing that, but he is. I say, yeah, it's fine. He just had that kind of innate atmosphere.
Yeah, the kids seemed to be enjoying themselves when they were there as well, which was brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were absolutely into it. I've not yet got my eldest into Goth Club. Yeah, my eldest is 15 now and is rebelling by being completely normal and listening to K-pop.
That's amazing. I was just always thinking, the my sort of kind of dread growing up is with my children maybe started listening to dance music or something like that instead of like rock and heavy metal and stuff. And then Pete, the uber goth, the LARPing uber goth's got a K-pop daughter.
Yep. Yeah, don't worry about it. We've got one as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, two of them completely into the alternative scene. The other one, she's a chav, basically. I don't know how we managed it, but she's a chav.
Oh man, no way.
Never mind.
It happens. I mean, again, none of mine have gone into goth or rock music. My eldest is a K-pop. My second is my eldest son is a bit. He's just into Fortnite. I'm going, come on, you want to play something else? No, Fortnite's fine.
I was at a do with some of my friends the other day, and my friends had a kid, and I said had a kid. He's 4 years old now, but he was sitting there kind of going. I was on my phone. He's like, and he was being a bit restless, and I was trying to keep him. So what do you want? He's like, a song. I was like, so what songs do you want? And and his dad and friend was like, what songs do you like, Cass? And he's like, Thunderstruck. And I was like, no way. And he's like,
awesome.
so we got AC/DC on, and like, so he's sitting there, and and I was sitting there going, thunder. And he's like, no, it's not yet, you don't say thunder yet. And then I was like, this is amazing. And then my mate turns around and says, who's that? And he's just like, he's like, that's Angus. He's naming all the members of the band and stuff. He's only like 4 years old. And I was like, that's insane. I was like, he's got you trained well. That's really good.
That is so cool. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you can't get that with all the kids. You're always going to have one that's a slight embarrassment.
I mean, what's particularly galling for me is like when my eldest was much younger, and Kaylee had gone to America for a week for a conference. I'd been left with Ada by myself and a stack of Star Wars films.
Yeah.
And my eldest was like only about 1.5 then. No, 1.5. Yeah, about 1. So we would just start watching Star Wars films for about a week. So when Kaylee returned, my eldest wasn't able to walk at the time, was just bottom shuffling everywhere, was bottom shuffling to Kaylee, waving a lightsaber, chanting Jedi, Jedi, Jedi. It was her third word.
Awesome.
And Kaylee was like, who had just been on a 12-hour flight from Chicago, just looked at me, looked at Ada, looked at me, and went to bed.
I have a friend who's his kid, and I think he was doing it to wind him up, but he's a massive Star Wars nerd like myself, and I got like an audio message, and it was his son going, I hate Star Wars, and I was like, you need to shut that child up right now. And I was like, you need to get rid of him. It's like his mother's encouraging him, and I was just like, you gotta grow him. So I went round to his house. I said, right, so we went to the cinema, so I came around, I brought my lightsaber with me, and I brought some like Star Wars toys, and firstly I sort of kind of jumped out with it, and I said, no, I was like, so you believe you don't like Star Wars? I said, I hate Star Wars. I was like, I will strike you down. So I brought out the lightsaber, and he's all like really impressed. It's like, oh, you want this, do you? Only people who like Star Wars get to play with lightsabers. And he's sitting there kind of going, I don't like Star Wars. I was like, oh, well, I guess you won't want these Star Wars toys. I guess I'll just have to give them to your daddy. And he sort of kind of slowly relented to the point where I went, okay, I like Star Wars. But as soon as he'd opened them and he'd played with the Star Wars, I don't like Star Wars. And I was like, oh, you little shit.
Bribery only works so far.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So where you got the shop going now, you are doing incredibly well. What's it like in Whitby for Crafty Cove? I mean, you're heading towards Halloween, which I imagine is quite a busy time for you with the Goth weekend.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it and dreading it in equal measure, because I know we're going to have fun, but I know I'm going to be knackered, basically. The shop usually stays open later on Goth weekend, basically to accommodate the number of people who do turn up. We literally are expecting thousands through the doors over the weekend. It's a bit daunting, but yeah, whatever, we'll enjoy it. I'll sleep on the following Thursday. I think
you'll sleep when you die.
On the Thursday, I mean, calling it Goth Weekend, it's a bit.
Yeah, it's more than a weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, Whitby Goth Weekend is actually a trademark that's owned by somebody else. And it's just become a generic term for what happens twice a year in Whitby.
Yeah.
We've decided now as a community, we're going to refer to it as the Whitby Autumn Goth Festival. And then next year it'll be the Whitby Spring Goth Festival at the end of April. And we're carrying on like that. So it isn't a weekend anymore. It usually starts on the Wednesday and finishes the following Wednesday. And it's not just goths that come here. We get many subcultures of the alternative community turn up. So it's a bit of a mouthful calling it the Whitby many subculture week. It doesn't really trip off the tongue anymore. So it's just generically called Whitby Goth Weekend. So the basic plan for us, it'll be the Wednesday when it starts. I'll be opening the week up at the Little Angel. I'm a singer as well as everything else. So I'll be performing at the Little Angel on the Wednesday at the beginning of the week. On the Thursday, we are renting the cove out to somebody for a hand fasting ceremony. So we'll be there till 1 o'clock in the morning doing that one. The Friday, we've insisted on having a night off because the missus wants to go and see the mission up at the pavilion.
Oh, yes. Excellent choice.
And then the Saturday, we have Bunker 13 turning up from Leeds.
Ooh.
And they're a massive sort of cyber electro type of alternative night. And that's going to be going until 3 in the morning. And then the following morning, I've got to get the shop set up again, ready to open at 11 o'clock. And then at the end of Sunday, we'll be putting the shop away and opening the club up again because we have Byronic Sex and Exile appearing. And it's actually a pretty special night for Byronic Sex and Exile as well. It's the album launch party for them.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that's happening, and he'll be on till 11 o'clock, and we decided we keep the night going through till 1 o'clock with a local DJ friend of ours called DJ Orpheus, and he plays some incredible alternative 80s music. It's one of those nights where you can sit there listening to him DJ, and every single song he puts on, you just look to whoever you're sitting with and go, I haven't heard this for in years. Every single track he puts on, it's like something that you've completely forgotten about. It's amazing. Oh, nice. It really is a good night. And then the Monday, we got a night off on the Monday, and I think Tuesday we got a night off, and then on the Wednesday night, it's going to be the Crafty Cove takeover of the Little Angel, where basically we're going to take over the pub. It's going to be another Crafty Cove night, but a Crafty Cove night where we don't have to sweep up at the end of the night.
Even better.
It's basically going to be myself compere in the evening, and anybody who has DJ'd at the Crafty Cove, anybody who is a customer or a friend of the Crafty Cove who can sing, who can play guitar, perform in any way, shape or form, you basically get a half-hour slot. We're just taking over the pub, and we've got a special guest appearance by a very well-known Whitby band who aren't allowed to appear as themselves, so they're coming as their alter egos of Lucy and the Vamps.
Okay.
But it's a band called Western Ra. I didn't tell you that, though.
Nice.
So, yeah, they're coming to perform for us on the Wednesday at the close of the week. So it's going to be an incredibly intense week. And then I think on Thursday when we shut the shop, I'm probably just going to pass out.
I don't blame you, really, because that sounds intense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is. It's going to be nuts. And then what generally happens is the 2 weeks following Goth Weekend, Whitby becomes a little bit of a ghost town. And then people start turning up for Christmas.
Yeah, I've got to say.
So, yeah, we do get a little bit of a lull, which gives us a bit of a rest after Goth Weekend, but the entire week of the Autumn's Goth Festival. I still can't get used to saying that. But the entire week of that, it's absolutely full on intense. It really is. And not to mention how busy the shop gets during the day. It's just mad.
Why are you using the name like Whitby Autumn Goth, Whitby Autumn Festival rather than? Is it kind of like it's to differentiate between the events in Whitby as a whole from the Whitby Goth Weekend?
Well, Whitby Goth Weekend was actually trademarked by the original founder of Whitby Goth Weekend. She trademarked that. Her name's Jo Hampshire.
Yeah.
She owns Top Mum Promotions, and she trademarked Whitby Goth Weekend. So anybody else running events on the same sort of weekend in town can't use Whitby Goth Weekend without permission from her.
Right.
She runs her events at different venues. She has the Bazaar or Bazaar. Anyway, it's a big goth market in the leisure centre in the Brunswick Centre. And it's really good. I usually lose the wife in there for a couple of hours. And they used to run the big events up at the Pavilion and the Spa, and then there was a lot of politics. It's a very, very long and tedious story involving the council and politics and promoters. A lot of backstabbing, a lot of backbiting. So it basically splintered off. And because we're not allowed to use Whitby Goth Weekend, we've decided as a community to pull together as the Whitby Spring and the Whitby Autumn Goth Festival. So that's going to be starting this year.
So it's sort of like a placeholder term for the all-encompassing of events that happen at the same time.
Yeah. Well, what actually happened was the promoters that took over from Jo Hampshire at the Pavilion, there was again a lot of politics involved, a lot of the council, etc. But Tomorrow's Ghosts took over. They took over the Pavilion. Now they announced earlier this year that they weren't going to be putting anything on for the spring event. So the Whitby Gazette, great big headline on the front page, Whitby Goth Weekend cancelled. And we were all gobsmacked when we saw that. So myself, Jay Charles, who runs Shadow Factory up at the Met, Justin Bray, who runs the Met, and Hazel Fettler, who's run Sexy Sunday and Manic Monday for the last 25 years, we all got together and basically dragged the reporter up to the Met and just said, look, you cannot say it's cancelled because the Whitby Gazette is no longer a local paper. Because of the popularity of the town, people from around the world read the website. So your comments on that story are potentially very, very damaging to small businesses in Whitby. So we bullied him into an apology and a retraction. And this is where the Spring and the Autumn Goth Festival came from, because we had to very, very quickly come up with a name for our events. So our events, rather than just being one single venue, the Whitby Spring and the Whitby Autumn Goth Festival is all-encompassing, and any venue, any shop, any cafe in town who wants to use that title and the logo that we've had designed, they're quite welcome to do it free of charge. We want the town to work together to keep the people coming into the town, because just one headline like that, Whitby Goth Weekend cancelled, could have stopped potentially thousands of people coming to Whitby for that weekend, and it could have really, really damaged the local economy.
Are you standing in the rain, by the way?
I'm standing at the back door having a fag at the moment.
Right. I was like, that's the uber goth move right there, to stand in the rain while you do your podcast.
Oh yes, it's very dark out here as well.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right though, because Whitby Goth Weekend is more than, as you say, the event at the pavilion and so on. It's the entire town. I mean, wife and I went there 15 years ago. We didn't actually go into the pavilion or any of the official events. Yeah, we just went to look. Nope.
I've been coming here for well over 20 years, and I've never actually been to the pavilion for an event.
Wow.
This year is the first time I'm going to see the mission.
I don't blame you for the mission, to be fair.
But yeah, it's never ever been just about one venue. It's the entire town. It's the atmosphere that is brought to the town. Yeah, there's just something about it. It's hard to describe. You've got to experience it at least once just to appreciate what it is. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. It's not just the shops and the pubs and the clubs that benefit from it. Even the local ice cream stands sell black ice cream. They really do. You can get horror-themed milkshakes from various little shops. Everybody just throws themselves into it wholeheartedly, and it's absolutely superb. And as a community, we should be working together. There shouldn't be any division between various groups. I mean, let's face it, the alternative community gets enough stick from outside of the community without the backstabbing and backbiting that has been going on. We don't need it. So yeah, we're working really, really, really hard just to bring everybody together, and it's working. We are seeing a lot of progress, and a lot of people are coming on board with it. It's brilliant.
That's great. I mean, like I say, it's like when we turn up there, we just kind of go there for the atmosphere and meeting it with friends that we hadn't seen for a while, hanging out in a meal, and we didn't actually go into any of them because you didn't need to, because it felt like the festival was more the entire town of Whitby rather than just those the salons and the Elsinore or whatever. Yeah.
I mean the Elsinore, where it all began. I mean, I'm very good friends with Andy and Mandy that run the place, but even they appreciate that the whole weekend has got so much bigger than their little pub can handle. I mean, the Little Angel over the road, again, I'm mentioning the Little Angel, but it is my local. They do a lot over the weekend. They've got a lot of events on. They've got DJs on all the way through during the day over the weekend. And again, they're tying in with us. They send people to us. We send people to them.
Is a Little Angel is a sort of alternative bar, pub even?
I don't think Richard would say that it was a goth pub, because everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
And again, he has the same attitude that we do, that nobody's excluded.
Yeah.
Absolutely nobody.
I just asked because, like, there's a couple like in Manchester, and you always find them back home and stuff. Where, like, there's a place called Grand Central on the Oxford Road in Manchester, and my band used to play there all the time, and it's obviously. It obviously never it turned into sort of like a metal bar, but it obviously never used to be that. And there's like an old guy who's in there every time I go in, and it's like he's been going for his whole life, probably since he was a kid. He's been going in that, and he refuses to leave, and he sort of kind of he drinks his bitter, and he begrudgingly sort of listens to this heavy metal and sort of kind of scowls.
You do get that occasionally in the Little Air. But obviously not as severe as that. I mean, during the week, the Little Air is just your bog standard normal pub. It just happens to be the pub where the local alternative community choose to go and meet up and drink. It's just more comfortable. It's not the nicest pub in town. It's not the cheapest pub in town. They seem more accepting. They don't care if a guy walks in wearing a miniskirt and a pair of high heels. They just don't care. And we're exactly the same. So it's we work well together.
I think it's good. It just makes good business sense. If you go down to just owning a business, if you restrict it because of the way people are sort of dressing and stuff, then you're cutting out customers. And as long as they're not being douchebags, it doesn't matter. They could come in and sort of Adidas, trackies and or like one of those bags. I don't know the kids wear these days. They could be a proper roadman and stuff. As long as they're being respectful, and they're it doesn't really matter, does it?
That's it. I mean, we do have a big sort of mission statement printed out on an A1 poster in our reception that basically. It's very long-winded and goes on about intolerance and things like that. It would have been just easier to put a poster outside that just says, you can come in, just don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick. That's the only rule. Don't be a dick. I think that's something. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And we have a one strike and you're out policy as well. That's, you make a complete tool of yourself in our place and that's it. You're out. You don't come back. Simple as. So, and it's working. It's working really, really well. Every single one of our events has been so well-natured, and it's been brilliant.
So no stress then? Is it stressful? I guess it's your own business, so it's not like you're working for the man anymore. You have responsibility for your own sort of destiny, as it were. Is it a stressful thing?
It's incredibly stressful. You have absolutely no idea. But it's a different kind of stress to working for somebody else. It motivates you rather than drags you down.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I walk in and, Jan's got orders for knitted things coming out of her ears, and I'm the same with T-shirts. But we just get our heads down. We get it done, and we enjoy while we're doing it, and we enjoy the customers coming in, and the customers are always made welcome. And even if I'm sitting there in the back of my head thinking I could be printing T-shirts rather than standing here talking to you, but yeah, whatever, I'll hang back an hour and I'll finish off, whatever. It's a lot more flexible than working for somebody else, put it that way. I'm there pretty much 7 days a week.
Yeah, I think my dad said to me, he was an architect, and he said the best thing that ever happened to him was when he became his own boss. He said, when he was sort of making the decisions and stuff, and he had his control. He said, obviously it's stressful, like you said, but you are making your own destiny, and you got that flexibility. And I think, like you said, the stress is. It encourages you to do something instead of bringing you down. Yeah,
of course it does. I mean, I've just had a massive order in for merchandise for the little air coming up to Goth Weekend. He wanted a load of T-shirts and hoodies printing, and we're talking in the hundreds. And I'm kind of about halfway through them, and all of a sudden I get an email today from Yellow Belly Records down in Lincoln. One of their artists is going on tour, and he'd like some more merchandise printing, please. And I'm just looking at the email thinking, oh, my God. But I'm halfway through them now, so I'm happy. It's, like I say, just get on and get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a freelance journalist full-time, and working with myself, on the one hand, it's stressful because the book stops with you. If you fuck up, then it's you're to blame, but also it gives you a lot more freedom. You can do what you want when you want, but you just know you've got to hit those deadlines, and you better hit those deadlines or you're going to lose a client.
Absolutely.
But again, it's like, well, if I don't fancy working one day and I've cleaned my board, I'll just fire up Starfield and buy the Xbox and start playing Starfield. But again, it's that flexibility. But again, the other side of that is you don't ever stop working, I find. There's always something in the back of my mind thinking, should be sitting here doing nothing. I should also be doing X, Y, or Z, or should I be pitching out this, or should I be doing that? So it's, I mean, we had regressions that didn't do it sooner. So,
I mean, I wish we could have done this sooner, but when we sit and look at what we do, we realise that the technology and the resources wouldn't have been available to us sooner than this. I mean, some of the equipment that I'm using at the moment just didn't exist 5 years ago. So, I mean, we were one of the first in the country to start embracing the DTF printing technology that we do for the T-shirts, as opposed to the vinyl cut stuff that everybody else was using.
What's DTF then? Sorry.
It stands for direct to film.
Right.
So what it is, it's a special kind of ink that prints onto a clear film.
Right.
So if I'm printing onto a black T-shirt, I basically take an image, remove all of the black from that image, and then print it onto the film. Then we put an adhesive powder on it, cook it, and then it becomes a transfer that is pressed onto a T-shirt. And the bonus of that is it feels less sort of plasticky when you're wearing it.
Yeah.
It stretches, the colours are more vibrant, it doesn't crack, and it lasts so much longer. And yeah, I mean, we started off with just one little printer, and then we ended up with 3. And then one of them basically fell apart because it was used too much, so I'm back down to 2. But it's it's far superior technology. It's faster, it's cleaner, it's more it's greener for a start, because I'm not throwing away all of the offcuts of plastic that I don't use anymore. It's just far superior technology. I mean, if you were to come and have a look at my workshop, the toys that I've got in there are just amazing.
I'll have a look.
They are absolutely amazing. They are fantastic. Like I said, I've got a line of 5 3D printers in there at the moment.
Ooh. Resin, or what sort of 3D?
Oh,
printers?
I've got 2 Creality Ender 3 printers, which is the FDM filament printers.
Yeah.
And I've got an Ender 5 Plus, which is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And I've printed a fully wearable Mandalorian helmet on that in one go.
Oh,
nice!
See, this is it. I've got friends who've got 3D printers. They've been banging on about getting one, and my friend keeps on rocking up to, like, when we're playing games and stuff. He's like, "Look what I've printed! Look what I've printed!" And I'm like, "No, I can't get a printer."
I mean, I've got the 3 FDM printers, and I did a Stormtrooper helmet on one of the smaller Ender 3s, and it was in 16 separate pieces that I had to sort of glue together and sand and fill, and it took ages. But my new one, the Ender 5. It just printed Mando's helmet in one go, and it is.
How long did that take in one go?
Just over a week.
Wow. What's it like? Does it eat electricity, or what's it like?
Not really.
No?
Not really. We got our 6 monthly electricity bill last month, and it was fine. It was about $6,000. But there we go.
Wow.
But no, the Mando helmet took about a week to print, and then the post-production, sanding, painting, more sanding, more painting, and then I fitted an Iridium motorbike visor on the inside of it. That took about 4 months.
Wow.
And then on top of all of those, I've got a little Elegoo Mars resin printer. And I've just about a month and a half ago, I got an Anycubic Photon X2 resin printer with a bigger build plate on it. So yeah, I think I've got a problem with 3D.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer the resin, or do you prefer the filament ones?
It depends, really. Filament, I would have said, are brilliant for more functional items. They're stronger. But your resin printers, the detail is just far superior. So if I'm printing tabletop figures for anybody, I'll always use the resin printers.
Yeah.
They're just beautiful.
Yeah, I've sort of, like, I've got friends who've got both, and the guy I was talking about, he comes up, he's got a resin one, and the detail, even for some of the really small stuff, it's just like, it's mad. It's like, it's absolutely insane. I was like, naff all resin, didn't take very long, and he's just sort of like giving me these handfuls of things he's printed, and I'm just like, that's insane, man.
Yeah.
So do you do much gaming? You mentioned, like, you kind of print figures for your mates. Do you do any gaming at all?
I never get time.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, when I was younger, kind of in my teens, early 20s, I used to collect, like, the Citadel figures and paint them, but I never really got into the gaming. I just liked the modelling side of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do with the 3D printers as well. I just enjoy printing them and painting them. We do have a lot of stuff in the shop that I've 3D printed. and it breaks my heart every time somebody buys it.
See
because
that?
I know how much time I've put into it.
Oh man, yeah. I couldn't do that. Like I'm an all right painter and stuff. And I've had people, why don't you sell? Why don't you sell? I was like, no, because it takes me long enough to do them, because I'm really bad. Like I'll start something and move on to something else, proper ADHD. But if I do finish something, that's it. There's like it's never going anywhere. And if I couldn't physically bring myself to sell something that I'd spent so much time and effort on, especially if it was finished, which it's not very often to finish something. So if it's finished, it's like, nope, can't do that.
It is difficult, but when somebody tells me how much they're willing to pay for it, then
well, yeah, that's it. Somebody hasn't thrown a load of cash at me, so maybe, you never know.
I mean, I've got a guy comes in, he is absolutely barking mad about Star Wars. I thought I was bad, but this guy, he lives and breathes it. He's got Darth Maul tattooed all the way up his arms. He is just covered in Star Wars tattoos. And unfortunately, the guy's disabled and he needs a cane to walk. And he came into the shop and he was looking at some of the 3D printed canes that I'd made. And he sort of asked me if I could do him a Star Wars themed one. So I did him Darth Vader's lightsaber.
Oh, amazing.
And it is absolutely stunning. And he came in, and I think if the guy had grinned any wider, the top of his head would have fallen off. He absolutely adored it. And he paid me enough for that walking stick to pay for one of my 3D printers.
Wow, okay.
Okay,
So,
See, I think that's another good sort of angle because you can create a lot of bespoke things. Therefore, and there's a lot of people because, for special gifts and just for themselves, like personally, I would like something a bit more bespoke over something sort of mass produced. So that's a really good angle for the business.
Absolutely. But what we try to do as well is to keep our prices realistic, because a lot of people, because they're in Whitby, think they can basically charge the earth. Whereas Jan, with her goth clothing and stuff like that, it's always realistic prices. There's nothing kind of out of everybody's reach in the shop. You don't walk in and see an item of clothing and think, well, I'll come back in 6 months when I've saved up for it. We've basically got stuff that you can flick along the rack and just say, oh, I'm having that. And that's the way it goes. We keep our prices low to keep turnover high. And because we keep turnover high, there's always going to be something different in there. And it kind of goes the same with the bespoke things. I mean, our printed T-shirts, I do completely unique designs for people. I use AI to make me designs. And if somebody comes in and they want a T-shirt that nobody else has got or ever will have, I'll knock them up a completely unique design, print a T-shirt, and then delete the file. I charge them £12.50 for a T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
And there are places in town that'll just sell you a generic off the peg T-shirt for £15, and it's the same old crap that they've had on for the last 10 years. Just silly little comment ones. I mean, we've got a section in the shop, and I'm sure you probably saw this when you came to visit, where we have a little rope across it that basically says parental advisory, explicit content, and it's kind of more on the risque side. And we had to do that because we had a couple of T-shirts on the rack that had swearies on them. And then this little, I think she must have been about 8-year-old, started laughing at the T-shirt, and she took it off the rack and showed it to Mummy, and Mummy said, "What does that say, sweetheart?" And it was basically a cartoon cat with meow written underneath it. And underneath where it said meow, it had brackets. That means fuck you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but this little 8-year-old girl read it out very loudly in the shop. And we were like, right, okay, time to shift everything onto the stage and put a rope barrier across. So yeah, we do have our more risque section up there now.
Yeah, you got some fantastic designs, and like I like to say, I've never seen anything like that T-shirt I came across, which is like no vanilla. I don't think so, and that just tickled me so much.
Yeah, that's one of my designs. Yeah.
It is brilliant. Like, yeah, I'm gonna have that one.
Do you know where that one actually came from?
No, I'd like to know.
That was a drunken party down on Tate Hill Beach one Saturday night.
Okay.
Yeah, we all went down. There was a group of just the local goths. We had a bonfire on the beach, and everyone was saying, "Oh, well, you should do this T-shirt. You should do that T-shirt." So I basically ripped a lump of cardboard off the box of beer that I had, took a pen out of my pocket, and said, "Right, fire away." They all started firing ideas at me. It's pitch black on the beach. I'm writing by the light of the fire after drinking about 8 cans of Desperados. So I got up the following morning with a bit of a thick head, and I'm wandering down to the shop to go and open up, and I've pulled this piece of cardboard out of my pocket. And what the hell's this? Oh my God. And I'm reading out some of the things going, well, no. So that one that you bought, that's where that came from.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, there were some there that I would not even dream of putting onto a T-shirt, because if anybody walked out wearing it, they'd get arrested.
So I've got to ask you, because you're a Star Wars fan, and I always ask this to all the Star Wars fans who come in here. What's your favorite Star Wars film, and why is it Rogue One?
Oh, well, it's not.
Damn it!
Well, it's got to be Empire, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to be Empire. Absolutely has to be.
Out of the new ones, though, what is your sort of like? Everybody I appreciate Empire sort of like up there, though. I would, and I did an article about this. I went Rogue One better than Empire as the title of the article. Bit of a clickbait thing, but yeah. But out of the new ones, what's your sort of what's your view? Where would you go?
Right. Well, I mean, it's probably going to sound controversial, but I did enjoy 7, 8, and 9. Solo,
underrated. Yeah. I thought.
Yeah,
I thought Solo was very underrated.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. See, basically, what happened when Disney started releasing them around about Christmas time, I tried to develop a tradition in our house.
Yeah.
Whereby on Christmas Eve, around about tea time, everybody stopped talking about Christmas. We jumped in the car and we went to the cinema to watch Star Wars, whichever one came out.
Yeah.
And I really wish Disney would have brought one out every year, because I'd love to keep that tradition going. And we went to see them Christmas Eve all the time. When Kylo Ren killed Han Solo, I pretty much stood up in the cinema and called him a bastard.
We knew that was going to happen ages before, right? So one of the guys who used to work, well, I say work, used to contribute to the website. He was at a wedding. He was at a wedding in Ireland, and some guy came into the pub they were in and was sort of like talking, and he's like, "So what do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I'm working on." He says, "I work in film," and he, as he progressively got more drunk, said, "Oh, I'm working on the new Star Wars film," and he kind of, my friend was just like, "Is there anything you can tell us about the new Star Wars film?" And he basically, as he got progressively more drunk, dropped that Han Solo was going to get killed, and so we did this piece. We said, like, this is like major spoiler for the new Star Wars film. Please don't read this if you don't want to sort of like get ruined. Honestly, we got this source, blah blah blah, and we basically said, Han Solo gets killed, sort of thing, that this is it. And we got so much hate. Wow. We got so many people like saying we were lying and that it was bullshit and it would never happen. There was a Reddit thread that got stopped. Everybody's like, this is bullshit. This is never gonna happen. It got locked. And then and then it happened and we're like, fucking told you, man. We weren't lying.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Like that was a big moment. I think it was just sort of I kind of the first one. No, sorry. I didn't mind the new ones. To be fair, I didn't like The Last Jedi. I sort of I didn't hate it. I just think Luke Skywalker it wasn't my Luke Skywalker, and it just seemed completely odd to me. It just like what he was doing and the way he was acting, and assisting, and the Princess Leia, Mary Poppins thing really made me fucking rage. Made me rage. I was just like, what the actual fuck is this? The only thing, like, and part of me was like, she should have killed her. They should have killed her in that episode.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that she was in the final episode, in the final one. And as much as it does, you know, a lot of people got mixed views on it. I got quite emotional about the last one because it was literally my childhood culminating, and was like, I grew up through the original series and trilogy, the new ones, and then these ones, and it was the last moment, and having those moments, like, you know, with her and even Chewie finally getting his medal and stuff like that. It was just like, I like proper started like tearing up about it and stuff.
I almost cried.
Yeah.
I almost cried.
Yeah, it was just like, and it was just like my childhood had been sort of, because that was the cap of it all. And even like, you know, it's, you know, some of the storyline was questionable, and I think it was being very reactionary to The Last Jedi, because they were trying to sort of mend things, so they're trying to show, well, this is why Leia could do Mary Poppins things and stuff, and this is why this happened and stuff. But yeah, it was, I think, as much as, you know, it had its flaws, but every Star Wars film I think has its flaws. It was a sort of kind of beautiful moment for me, because it was just like, it just capped it off. It was like, you know, my childhood. It was like the end of my childhood, effectively, for all intents and purposes. And yeah, it's yeah. So it was like that sort of Last Jedi moment where it's like, she should have just been killed, and I'm kind of glad she wasn't. I've not gone back and watched. It's the only Star Wars film I've not watched again, because I was just like, I can't deal with this. I just don't want to watch it again. I
got to relive it all again. I remember back in the day taking a tantrum in the middle of the street in Bishop Auckland in County Durham because my mum wouldn't take me to the cinema to see this new Star Wars that had just come out. So she took me to see the film because I was basically chucking a wobbler in the street. And I've been a fan of ever since. And then when Jan and I got together, God, too many years back to think of now, she'd never really paid much attention to Star Wars because she took her son to see episode 1 and she'd never seen anything else. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, Jan, you picked the wrong one to start with.
Yeah.
Right. That was a bit drawn out. So I tell you what, let's go through them in order. And I sat her down and made her go through all of them. And like I said, when we went to the cinema that Christmas and Kylo killed Han, the first thing Jan said to me when we walked out the cinema was she wanted to give Chewie a big hug. I know I nearly cried for him as well.
Yeah, man. Like, I kind of part of me sort of kind of want. There's some canon stuff where I kind of like. I'm glad they killed him off, but there's sort of some other bits which they've sort of ignored. What's it fucking called? I keep forgetting the bloody name of it. Basically, the Vong Fak. Oh, what are they called? Can't remember the name of them. They're basically a force sensitive Vong. Let's see. Yeah, the Yuzhan Vong. That's them. The Yuzhan Vong Wars, which is basically directly after the Civil War, but it's like a really devastating war. And in that canon, Chewie and Han Solo get killed, and I was like, that would have been a really sort of devastating one, but that'd been pretty cool because it's sort of very much, because I quite like what I liked about Rogue One so much was, and I've said this numerous times on this podcast, but the reason I like Rogue One very much was, one, it's just a war film, but two, it's because it's grey, and I like the grey angle. I like the fact that it doesn't sort of portray the rebellion as this whiter than white goody two shoes thing. I like the fact that it has they've got like Andor, especially the Andor series is exactly the same. It's got this very dark edge to it where it's like they've had to do stuff that they're probably not being proud of, and they've done stuff which could be classed as, you know, murder, bad things. So it gives you that sort of different angle, and this whole Sorry, said
depending on how you look at it, it's borderline terrorism, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. And I like that sort of angle. There's again, another thing I've mentioned on the podcast a few times. There's a fan film on YouTube, and I can't remember its name, but it's basically it's about a soldier whose family, an Imperial trooper whose family was killed by the rebellion, and then he joins the Imperial Army to basically fight these terrorists and stuff, and it's from that angle and stuff, and it's really good because it's like, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist and stuff, and it's like you've got that whole sort of angle to it. I like that sort of grey ambiguity. Yeah, I like that ambiguity, and the whole Yuzong Vong thing is that the Imperials were creating, not the Death Star was there to sort of kind of, its primary goal wasn't just to subjugate the galaxy, it was there to prevent them invading, the Yuzong Vong from invading, and with them gone and destroyed, they invaded, and more people died in the ensuing war than did during that thing. So I like that sort of angle where it's just like, they are shitbags, but there's like a different angle. There's another angle. It's a very sort of Thanos sort of like, there's method to the madness sort of thing. There's another edge to the madness, and I like that. I like that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
I like that.
Yeah. Are you watching Ahsoka at the moment?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
No spoilers. I've not watched. I'm waiting till I'm waiting till it ends and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen this week's yet. So yeah.
I'm waiting till it ends, and then I'll binge it. That being said, I haven't seen I haven't seen Clone Wars or Rebels. I started watching Clone Wars and it just couldn't get into it. It was just like it was really sort of like plotty, and like I've got people who've told me like it gets better as it goes along, and the end series sort of kind of tie in with it all a lot more. But like when I started watching, I was like, I can't get into this. It's not really
Rebels is a lot better, I found.
Rebels is awesome. Rebels is absolutely awesome, and if you've watched Rebels, then you understand a lot more of the obscure things in Mandalorian, especially with Ahsoka turning up in Mandalorian. I'm like, as soon as she turned up in Mandalorian, it was like, I know where she's going. She's looking for Ezra.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I've heard Ahsoka described as like a Rebels season 5, which, I can see that.
Yeah, it does. It follows on. That's exactly what it's doing. I mean, she's looking for Ezra. She's looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Everything just ties in. I like the way they've even got Chopper. They deserve to keep him because he's awesome.
He's an absolutely brilliant character. And I mean, I love the fact I do Kung Fu on Tuesday nights, and we do also do weapons practice, so using the bokken.
Yeah.
And I remember my Sifu saying to me once, when I'm using the bokken and I listen very, very carefully, I can hear that hum of a lightsaber.
Yep.
And it's true because I was watching some of the latest episodes, and I recognise that. I do that stunts work.
Yep.
And it's great. I'm learning how to use a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Which proves I've yet to grow up.
Oh, fantastic. It is superb. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, cool. Right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm glad to hear that it's going really well for you. You always get a lot of small businesses and stuff who struggle, especially time it looks like you're knocking it out of the park. I will definitely have a visit next time I'm in Whitby.
Fantastic.
But thank you very much for joining us. Have you got anything you need to pimp before we go? Is there anything you need to sort of shout out?
I think I've blown enough sunshine up our asses.
Brilliant. Okay, well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Tony. For me,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. For me, I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ray Allison.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
And Tony. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.